But I know a lot of people are also really excited about this Memorial Day weekend because for the first time we can get together with groups of 10 and under, that restaurants open today, that so much opens on Monday. And what's important is that we do it responsibly because that's how we get through this and we get through it together. So say it with me. We will get through this. We will get through this together. And one last time, we will get through this. We will get through this together. We're going to get through this together because we have already proven that we can do so much. We have proven that when we have adversity like we have had, that we as a people in Kentucky are resilient, we take care of each other, and we come out on the other side. This weekend, though, I do want to admit is a big weekend. It's about being able to do more things than we have in a while and to make sure we do them responsibly. So much of how this recovery goes, how we're able to be healthy at work, how we're able to keep our cases down, depends on how we're able to do this weekend and every weekend thereafter. So I have faith in the people of Kentucky. I know you're going to follow the healthy at work rules and all of the other rules that are out there. And with this being the Friday, we don't have to talk through them. I know we're going to make it happen. And I want to start today, before we get into our numbers, with just some really positive news, or a different way of talking about positive news that gives me faith and gives me comfort that we can do this and do this well. And we have a new graphic on our testing sites, and it's about overlaying the cases and the amount of cases with areas that have been tested this week and areas that are testing currently. And so if you look especially at some of the areas that have been hit hardest, if there is a red star in them, there is a testing location there for at least part of a week. But it tells you that we can now test all over Kentucky, and especially where places are hit hard, there is testing. This says that we can do this reopening the right way, having the amount of testing that we need. And so as you go into this weekend, I'm asking that you be responsible, but that you also know that we are working really hard to do the right thing and make sure that we can monitor asymptomatic and other infection as we move forward. We ask each week that you follow all the rules that we set out, but that you also fill out your census. And after Secretary Adams talks tonight, we're going to have one more ask after this here in a minute. But your census depends on the amount, determines the amount of federal dollars that flow into the state. It just takes a couple minutes. You all have been great citizens. We've believed and bought into our duty. This is part of it. Please fill it out. And then since we're being healthy at work now, since we're asking people, why do you wear your mask? We've asked that people fill things up on social media, following those right steps, doing the right things. We use these hashtags and many more, just an opportunity to show people out there that we can still enjoy life, we can still have important moments while keeping each other safe. Let's see what we got. All right, so this is KDE, Kentucky Department of Education. This Saturday at 7 p.m. is going to be streaming a special graduation ceremony for all of the seniors statewide. You got Lincoln Bridge, which a credible group of guys sang at my inauguration. J.D. Shelburne, who is our cover guy on our tourism magazine. Great Kentucky and great song about being from Kentucky. This is going to be pretty special. I hope our graduation seniors tune in because I think the only people who sang at my graduation might have been my school choir, though they did a great job. All right, so our houses of worship have been available to be open, but are really coming back online this weekend. And just look at this. It shows you, and I want to give people a minute, a little bit about how social distancing should be done. So this is the way that we think through everything that we ought to be doing. It's the way that we think through how 6 feet is in every direction like this church is doing, but also that we follow these rules so we protect our fellow human being. First Baptist Church in Shelbyville, we really appreciate you being a leader and putting out there how you're going to protect people. All right, this is the Twin Lakes Regional Medical Center. Again, when we put up that slide earlier to show how there's testing everywhere, it's because of folks like this. It's because of communities that have said, if you can supply the kits or we're going to go out and get them, that we can do this for our area. This is how we protect one another. All right, Mario Anderson, I think you all know him, is talking about being back at work. Healthy at work, and again, showing the importance of that mask, just how it protects those around us. Yeah, this is pretty special. I enjoyed both what it says and the two of them, but also just making sure we can look out for others. If you see some of the hashtags, it's talking about why they wear masks, to protect the people around them. And people continue to do and make sacrifices, to do the right thing for their neighbors around them, and to make sure that cost is not an object for anybody having this extra layer of protection or protecting others. I've loved seeing people use the time they have to help other people. It says something special about us, and it says something really special about them. And this is the Patriots Peace Memorial. I used to live about a half a mile from this. It's a place that I think I only stopped at once and should have a lot more. But again, doing their part to recognize this weekend and put out the messages that are important for us to remember at all times, including this time. So before we get into our numbers today, I wanted to invite Dr. Stack up to talk about this weekend. This weekend is a big chance. It's a big opportunity. It's something that we've all wanted to get back to, but we just need to do it right. I know we will, but it'll give us a couple of reminders about the things we need to do it right.
Thank you very much, Governor, and thank you, everyone, for listening tonight. My message tonight is not about facts and figures, and it's not about trying to quote off a whole lot of science. We've gone through a lot together over the last few months. It's really hard to believe that March 6th was the day we were standing here announcing the first patient we'd identified positively by testing with coronavirus. We've sacrificed a lot. This has been a war we've waged against a virus across the state, across the country, and across the world. It's taken a big toll. We're just shy of 100,000 people who have succumbed to this, who have died because of the virus in the United States. I don't know the current number, but I suspect by the start of next week we'll be at 100,000 or so. That's a lot of people who have sacrificed their lives to this illness just this calendar year alone, specifically to one disease. We've paid economic costs. This has been a real sacrifice and a real challenge across all of society. And I want to thank you for that. I'm very proud of Team Kentucky. I am very grateful. I get not the same volume the governor does, but I get thank you letters. I'm very grateful for those. They do help sustain as we've gone through these challenging times. I want to urge you, though, this is a time that gets dangerous for us. People get complacent. We can have the tendency to reach the wrong conclusions sometimes. We've taken our losses here in Kentucky, and we have families who have suffered because of this virus and because of the loved ones they've lost. We could have been here with many, many, many more people who would have lost their lives and families suffering those losses. The reason we're not having a much serious crisis right now in terms of health and loss of life is because of what you've done as Team Kentucky, staying healthy at home these past couple months. If we continue on this course, which is clearly a much better course than we could have been on, it is a much better course than they had in China until they locked down the entire city, in northern Italy and in New York City and other places. If we had not acted so quickly and done these things, we would have been in much bigger trouble. But because we're not in that trouble, some may conclude that the danger is not still there. And I got to urge you, the danger is there. That if we take our eye off the ball, if we don't focus intently on healthy at work, if those who are most vulnerable don't continue to stay healthy at home, and those are people over 65 and people with major medical conditions, we could find ourselves in late June paying very dearly for our actions today. So please, Memorial Day is a time when friends and family come together and celebrate those who have sacrificed much before us and are grateful for their service to our nation. I am grateful to all of you, all of Team Kentucky, all nearly 4.5 million of you who have sacrificed to help us get here today to a better place when we can look to safely reopening more of our society, and hopefully we're better prepared to deal with any increase in the disease that may arise. But as you get together and you celebrate each other and you celebrate the chance to join in groups of 10 or less, please, these masks, the space of more than 6 feet between each other, and the hand hygiene and surface cleaning, all of those things matter a great deal. Those are the things we're going to have to do, coupled with contact tracing, which we'll continue to educate on in the weeks ahead, that are going to allow us to get back to enjoying each other more and start to recover from the economic costs that we've incurred, helping to keep people safe and alive and well. So thank you very much. Enjoy your families and your friends this weekend, but please do it safely, and please follow our healthy at work guidelines as you do that. So thank you very much, Governor.
Thank you. So we've talked about the last couple days, a good way to remember it, our hands, face, and space. And if you think about all of those and how you are going to do your get-togethers this weekend, we hope that it can be safe. And given that it's Memorial Day, we want to make sure that everybody can express their appreciation. So today, if you could help us or teach us how to say thank you, which we have done, for your sacrifice. Thank you for your sacrifice. Okay, one more time. Thank you. Sacrifice. Okay, so today's numbers overall in many ways are at in numbers of cases what we had yesterday, and thankfully our deaths are down. Again, we now think that we have not just plateaued, but we are actually in a decline on overall number of cases, especially when you look at the amount of testing we're doing, and that is really good news. It doesn't mean we're out of the woods because we're changing our level of contacts that are out there, but it is really good news. Now, no one's ever seen exactly what the decline looks like with this virus or how it can pop back up again, but given that our first case was 2.5 months ago, this is a place that I'm happy that we are at. So today, we're reporting 141 new cases of COVID-19. And we removed duplicates and the rest. We only had one of those this time. Our total reported number thus far for the entire period, starting March 6th, is 8,426. Of those, 121 are probable, and the rest are lab confirmed. To date, we have tested over 171,338, 171,338. That's up a little over 5,000 from yesterday, though I still think that number is low. But right now, I mean, that number for our population and how it's escalated is in a pretty good place. Total number ever hospitalized since the very start, 2,076. Currently, 477. Ever in the ICU, 889, currently 90. And total number of recovered, my favorite number, 3,069. As a reminder, these cases can strike anyone, and that's why, for instance, youth sports guidance is going to go up today. It's why we got to make sure that we're still really careful. Even if the mortality rate is low with the group, there could still be real complications and they can still spread it. So today's list includes a 2-year-old boy from Warren County, a 1-year-old boy from Jefferson County, an 11-year-old boy from Warren County, an infant in Jefferson, a 13-year-old girl in Woodford, a 7-year-old boy in Nelson County. So just a reminder, let's keep doing these good practices. They protect you. They protect your children. Again, we're all in it together, and we'll get through it together. But let's remember, each and every one of us matter. Our decisions matter. And to protect one another, we've got to make good decisions around everybody else, including around everybody else's children. New cases by county, 28 in Jefferson, 28 in Warren, 16 in Kenton, 11 in Boone, 9 in Fayette, 6 in Woodford, 5 in Logan and Shelby, 3 in Campbell and Christian, 2 in Barron, Edmondson, Gallatin, Hardin, Hopkins, Menifee, and Pulaski, and then 1 in Adair, Bracken, Butler, Clark, Crittenden, Davis, Grayson, Henry, Marion, Meade, Nelson, Simpson, and Trimble. And while it's down from other days, today we're announcing that we've lost 5 additional Kentuckians to COVID-19. Again, over this long weekend, I know people will have fun. People will also engage in very important memorial ceremonies, both to servicemen and women we lost, but also to their families. So let's remember these 5 are just as important as everybody else that we have lost. Let's honor them with the green lights, with the ringing the bells at 10 a.m. They include an 88-year-old male from Jefferson, a 97-year-old female from Jefferson, a 74-year-old man from Barron, an 88-year-old female from Hopkins, and a 72-year-old female from Shelby. So let's keep them in our thoughts. Let's, if you pray, pray for them. These are families that again are grieving in an even more difficult time, and let's do everything we can to support them. Ethnicity and race, overall cases on race, 74.26% white, 14.56% black or African American, 5.74% Asian, 5.28% multiracial, and on ethnicity, 85.78% non-Hispanic, and 14.22% Hispanic. On deaths, on race, 77.62% white, 18.7% black or African American, 2% Asian, 1.7% multiracial, and then on deaths, it's about 97% non-Hispanic and 3% Hispanic. All right, so our next item is one that I'm really thankful for a lot of people who have worked together, and I think it's an example of people putting everything else aside for the betterment of everybody out there, and that's how our elections are going to be conducted. Today, the portal is opening for all Kentuckians around the state to be able to request an absentee ballot. So today, we have our Secretary of State and we have our Executive Director of our Board of Elections, each of which are going to talk about it and walk us through a little bit of it. The slide is up. It gives you where to go and how to do it. And I'm going to tell you that every day I'm up here at 5, I'm going to say request this. Make sure you vote. Let's make sure, even during COVID-19, that we are out there selecting our leaders through the democracy that we all believe in. So let's start off with our Secretary of State, Michael Adams. Which way do you want to go? There we go.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Michael Adams, Secretary of State of Kentucky and Chief Elections Official. I'm very proud to announce the unveiling of this new online portal, or in standard English, a website where you can apply to get your absentee ballot. In pursuing this position last year, I promised I would make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. I'm very pleased to say that this system of voting that we've adopted for the primary on June 23rd achieves both of those missions. It makes it easy to vote and it makes it hard to cheat. There are 4 ways to vote in this election. Some of them are better than others, but we have not taken anyone's rights away. Neither a Democratic governor nor a Republican Secretary of State want to in any way suppress Democratic primary voters or Republican primary voters in being enfranchised and casting their ballots and being heard. We actually have made voting easier than it was before under the unique circumstances that we have at the moment. So there are 4 ways to vote. You can vote in person on Election Day. You can vote early at your county clerk's office starting no later than June 8th. You can vote absentee ballot by mail, or you can vote absentee ballot by getting your ballot at home, filling it out, and dropping it off at your county clerk's office. Now, those are the 4 options that you have by law. That said, some of them are better than others. For obvious reasons, we want to avoid long lines at the polling sites. We're going to have long lines because we're going to have people 6 feet apart. We're going to have them voting in a different manner than they voted before, potentially, so we can comply with the President's guidance, CDC guidance. So Election Day is going to look a lot different. We're still working on what that looks like precisely. But what we don't want to see is people overloading the polling sites, long lines like we had in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Recently, people waiting 5 or 6 hours to vote. I don't want to have elderly people having to stand on their feet for long periods of time, and I certainly don't want to have a transmission of this virus. So the best thing you can do is to go online to this website, govoteky.com. You can do lots of things with this website. The first thing you should do is check your voter information and make sure it's current. You can punch in your name and your date of birth and your social, and you can check your voter registration, make sure it's in order, make sure your name is correct, make sure that you're at the right address, make sure you're registered in the correct party. And if your registration information is not correct, you can fix it immediately. You can also register to vote there. The deadline to register to vote is May 26th, that's Tuesday after Memorial Day. May 26th at 4 p.m. That's when we got to close the books for this primary. So go to govoteky.com and register to vote and update your information if you're already registered. Finally, the best way to get your ballot is to go to govoteky.com, and here's why. You can call your county clerk, you can email your county clerk, you can fax your county clerk. I guess you could pay your county clerk if you wanted to. The county clerks are really working hard right now. They are completely overrun under the current reality of trying to function their offices in this current condition. So the best way for you to help your county clerk, the best way for you to be a respectful citizen is to go to this website. If you're able, go to govoteky.com and apply for your ballot there. Now, why do you have to apply for a ballot? I want to clarify for Kentuckians, we are not just going to mail ballots to everybody automatically. We're not able to do that. We do have to, by law, require an application. You don't have to qualify in any particular way. All you have to do is verify your identity. If you go to govoteky.com, you put in your name, you put in your social and your date of birth, your voter file will automatically populate, and you'll be able to verify that. And then a ballot will be mailed to you. We're paying for the postage for you to fill that ballot out and send it back to us. It'll be sent by your county clerk, and then you'll mail it back to your county clerk. Your own county officials will count these votes. You can also, alternatively, if you want the personal security of hand-delivering your ballot instead of putting it in the mail, you can do that. In fact, we're providing drop boxes free of charge to all of the counties, if they would like one, so that you can personally go to your county clerk and drop your ballot in the bin. These drop boxes will be under supervision by the clerk's staff. They'll be completely safe. So you've got multiple options to vote. We hope that you'll do that. Preliminarily, we've had a couple of counties introduce their own online portals, their own websites for absentee ballot applications. The numbers are very good. We're seeing high turnout. I'm glad that Kentuckians are a resilient people, and they're still being heard. Just a couple of points about the website. Jared Deering is here. He's the executive director of the State Board of Elections. The State Board actually built the website. I'll defer to him on answering specific questions you may have about that. But I will tell you this. Number one, this website portal closes at midnight, June 15th. That's a week out from the election. Monday, June 15th, 11:59 p.m., it goes off. Why is that? Well, because at that point, if you're applying for an absentee ballot, it's got to be mailed to you and filled out and mailed back. We're concerned that your vote may be lost if it comes to you too late and it's too late to get it back. So we do encourage you between right now and midnight on the evening of Monday, June 15th, to go to this website and apply for your ballot there. This website is mobile friendly. You can do this on your iPhone or your Droid. It's open 24/7. We don't go out of business. It's ADA accessible. And I want to publicly thank Jared Deering and the staff of the State Board of Elections for the masterful job they've done under very limited time conditions to put this together. Just a final point. As I said, this makes it easy to vote, which is critical, but it also makes it hard to cheat. We've got security built into this. I'll give you some examples. Number one, as I said, we're not simply mailing out ballots to the phone book. We're requiring voters to apply. And I understand that's a little bit inconvenient, but we've got to verify identity of a voter. So we, A, don't have vote fraud, and B, so that the citizens can have confidence in the results. Another thing we're doing is we're having voters sign these applications. That is so that we can match signatures on the application to the signatures on the absentee ballots. Every voter who votes absentee will need to sign the absentee ballot envelope. You do not sign the ballot. Otherwise, we would know how you voted. We don't want to know. It's a secret ballot that's in our Constitution. But sign that envelope, and then we'll compare those signatures. We'll have a process in place to notify voters if there's a mismatch. Usually it's innocent, but not always. So we're watching out for that. We're also going to have barcodes on these ballot envelopes so we can track them. We want to know that ballots have gone out and that they've come back or not. We're also tracking whether certain addresses get large numbers of ballot requests. I'll give you an example. We had an address in Marion County that had 41 requests for absentee ballots. That looked a little fishy. We checked it out. It was a nursing home. That checked out fine. But those are the sorts of things that we're monitoring so that we can reassure Kentuckians that we've got this, that we're ensuring both a free election and a fair election. With that, I'm very delighted to unveil this website, and I'll turn over the mic to Jared Deering. Thank you so much.
I'd like to first start by thanking the Governor and the Secretary of State and the members of the State Board of Elections. Over the last couple of months, they have shown true leadership in the face of unprecedented circumstances. I'd like to thank my staff who've worked incredibly long hours to be able to put this together. But I'd also like to point out and thank the county clerks and their staff and all the work that they've been putting into making sure that every Kentuckian has the ability to cast their ballot. That every eligible voter has that right, but also that they can do it safely and securely. I'd also like to say that over the coming weeks, it's going to be important that everyone has an opportunity to make a plan of how you will vote. It's always important to make a plan. When you do that, you guarantee that you will have more success in whatever that endeavor is going to be. My hope is that over the next couple of days, you will make a plan to log into govoteky.com. Access the portal, and fill out your application to receive a ballot at your home so that you can vote safe at home. And I think that's really what we're pushing right now, and that's what we would really like to see from the members of our community, that you show leadership as well. I think both the Secretary and the Governor had mentioned this, that we're asking people to access this portal so that they can vote safe from home, but that there are also other options for you to be able to vote. So one of those will be in-person voting on Election Day. I know I've heard a lot of people that have called and said it's their right to cast that ballot in person because it is an incredible experience. When I was 18, my grandfather, who was a Master Chief in the Navy, put me in the car, took me down to the polling station, set me outside, and he said, "If you don't come out with a sticker that says I voted, you're walking home." And I thank him for that every single day now. And that kind of experience exemplifies the voting experience for most people, that they want to show up, they want to go in person, they want to cast that ballot, they want their kids running around their legs while they're at the privacy booth, they want to see their neighbors, their community. I think what's important to take away from this is that we are leaving in-person options open because not everyone has the same opportunities that you might have to be able to cast your vote safe at home. So you might have members of your community that are disabled. You might have members of your community that are senior who have low vision, maybe arthritis, can't hold a pen. The importance for those individuals to be able to also have the same rights that you do, to be able to cast that ballot, have to be remained open. So we're saving those spots, those open places for those seniors, our most valuable members of our most vulnerable members of our community, to be able to show up. Hopefully there'll not be a long line for them to stand in because many of them won't have that ability, and that they'll be able to cast their ballot just as much as you will if you are able to cast yours from home. So that's what we're asking today. Again, govoteky.com. You'll be able to find a link to the portal. It takes less than 2 minutes on average for individuals to be able to fill that out. It's an incredibly simple process, and we hope that you take advantage of it. Thank you again to the Secretary and the Governor and the members of the State Board of Elections.
All right. I want to thank both our Secretary of State and Jared. Now, I'm a pretty tall guy, but I'm not going to stand next to Jared. In all seriousness, this might be the easiest that it ever is to vote safely, to vote in your own home. So do it. It's that easy. You can get that ballot request right now before I'm done talking, possibly before I'm done talking on this. So get online. Let's do it. I would love to see us have a better primary response through this than we normally see. That'll at least lead to a discussion. I know no decision, but let's make sure that we have a good election and a fair election and a safe election during this time. Thank you to everybody who's been involved in it. Okay, going to do a quick unemployment insurance update, and then we're going to move into two other quick announcements, and then we ought to be able to get right into questions. So, Josh Benton.
Thank you, Governor. Just a couple of updates on unemployment insurance. First, the April unemployment insurance rate was released yesterday, 15.4%. I think a couple of distinctions to recognize in that number is that is for the insured unemployment. So those that are typically covered by unemployment insurance. That number does not include all of the individuals that have been with eligibility flexibilities that have been included in unemployment insurance benefits. So that is a barometer. It's probably higher than that. I think that's very safe to assume. It's an update on March and April claims. These are ones that are having to be processed manually by staff because they have multiple issues and require those manual reviews. We are down to 14,000 remaining in March and about 38,000 remaining in April. We are adding more adjudicators and individuals that can review claims on a daily basis so that we can attack those. We have put our best and most seasoned adjudicators on those that are remaining in March. We're also looking at technology options that will help us process claims more effectively. So a couple of things we're going to look at as it returns, as we talk about slides, some updates to our website that can allow both individual claimants and employers to communicate with us and provide information to us. So first, we're going to talk about there's been some updated information on filing a claim, new videos, how-to videos that allow people to get step-by-step instructions. But specifically, I want to talk about return to work dates. So as more and more people are returning to work, there's some things that are having to take place so that we know individuals are returning to work. When this all began, no one knew when employers would be calling individuals back. So we are now allowing for employers to submit return to work dates for their employees. On our website, about halfway down the page, there will be a link where employers can submit the return to work dates for their employees. In addition to that, what that will do is that it will stop the benefit payment if an employee has come back to work. Individuals can stop their benefit payment simply by stopping requesting payments. But that return to work date is important. We don't want individuals to continue to request payments if they've been called back to work or they have returned to work. By law, UI law, that's fraud, and we don't want that to happen. And also, as you'll see here with the red circle, obviously communication has been a challenge throughout this. And so we have put some measures in place to streamline email communication. So you'll see here the red circle around the contact us or ask unemployment insurance questions. That will allow individuals to submit a form identifying their issue, and it will be streamlined. We know a lot of people are emailing a lot of different staff that work on unemployment insurance, and we want that to be a more efficient process. So now just follow the instructions at the Contact Us link. Just a couple of general updates as we look at Memorial Day coming up. we're treating Memorial Day much like we would a Sunday. That's a big payment day where people can request their payments, and they can also still file a claim. But it will be limited. Banks are closed and that sort of thing, so you can't do the financial transactions as normal. But we're still going to be able to allow individuals to request their biweekly payments. A couple of other things of note. As of Sunday, there will no longer be any more automatic payments. Everyone will have to request their weekly benefit payments. There had still been some individuals, especially on the PUA program, that were still receiving automatic payments every 2 weeks. That's been changed now, and you'll have to request that benefit payment every 2 weeks. And just a reminder to folks, as we talk about protecting their personal information, is to update their PIN numbers. There's a video on the website that'll walk someone through that, but it's important to do that at least every 30 days, just so that their identity is protected. The biggest issue across the country is identity theft when it comes to unemployment insurance, where someone's identity is stolen and then claims are filed on their behalf. And so we have measures in place to prevent that when people are submitting a claim. But it's good, obviously, for people, just like they would with their bank account and their email address and all the other things, to reset their PINs. And then one last thing, as we talk about there's no more auto payments and returning to work and that sort of thing. When someone has returned to work, if it's maybe for limited hours than they were used to, they could still qualify for a reduced unemployment insurance benefit. So when they go to request their payment, they will need to include the wages that they've earned from that week, and it's going to recalculate their benefit amount. So if a server at a restaurant goes back, but they're only working 15 to 20 hours a week, where before they were working 40, there's a chance, depending upon what those wages are, that they're still going to get a reduced benefit. But they just need to enter those wages when they request that payment going forward. So with that, those are the big updates from unemployment insurance, and thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. I have a couple of updates from our Healthy at Work initiative as we work to reopen the economy along with state government. First of all, thanks to our great team, which includes Secretary Jim Gray, Larry Roberts, and Larry Hayes, and also the Department of Public Health that works with us to make sure that we get these things right in a way that's workable for the community and our businesses. First of all, as we move forward and we start to reopen things, we want to reopen the people's home, the Capitol. So as of the 27th, we're going to open up the Capitol to small groups of 10 or fewer. And this is on application. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that we keep the capacity to where we need to under our minimum requirements and small group requirements. So be able to apply to come in and tour the Capitol. There'll be self-led tours, and also the dining areas, halls, and passageways. And we're going to ask you to wear masks. You're not required, but we encourage you to do that to help keep yourself safe and follow CDC guidelines. As of June 1st, we're opening up bowling alleys, auto racing and dirt track racing, and fitness centers. And those requirements are now posted on our website. They're also posted in Spanish as well. June 15th, we will be opening up youth sports, and that guidance is now posted. The requirements that go along with that, we've been working with stakeholders such as the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, St. Matthew's Baseball League, Lexington Legends, Bowling Green Hot Rods, and this is going to tell you the kinds of activities and youth sports that you can do, when you can do them, and the important health and safety requirements that go along with them. And finally, I hope you have a safe and happy weekend.
All right, and a separate but private event that's going to be held in the Capitol Rotunda on Monday is going to be a private small funeral for Phyllis George. It's going to be about 40 people, but streamed live on KET. This is a former First Lady who served an amazing role here in Kentucky. And we'd request that you tune in. Again, it's a private service. It's the way that we can try to honor a former First Lady at a time when this coronavirus is still prevalent, following all the rules that we'd ask anybody else to, but doing the right thing. Her two children, Lincoln and Pamela, have been really incredible and understanding in the course of this. Again, it's seeing their grief and the difficulty in having the same types of services that we've seen in the past. On another positive note, the Governor's Scholars Program has provided a proposal that we have been able to accept. It is for a reduced 1 week and significantly fewer student experience this summer. And so I know GSP will be able to put out the word to those students. Each family does need to look through the rules and the regulations. They need to look at the risk that may or may not be there and make the best decision. Being the first Governor Scholar to become governor, it's an important program, but I will tell you, until I got the proposal, I was very skeptical. But this is a way that we believe it can be done safely. It is a really significant proposal that was out. Dr. Stack signed off on it. So I'm glad these students are going to get some amount of that experience. It was certainly life-changing for me, for my chief of staff, and for many other folks that are out there. So I believe with that, we can open it up to questions. I know we've gone a little bit longer, and everybody's looking forward to the weekend. So my only ask to our great reporters who are here is that every question is really easy, so I can answer it in 3 words, and then we can get out of here. But in seriousness, we have Karen Czar, Joe Sonka, Phil Pendleton, and Joe Ragusa. And we'll start today with Joe. And have I been pronouncing your last name correctly? If not, I apologize.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
All right.
The consensus forecasting group met today went with a more pessimistic outlook as far as revenue projections. It looks like the general fund, they're predicting or expecting a shortfall of $457 million. Also some issues with the road fund as well. What's your reaction to that in light of decisions to have state agencies and other offices develop plans for budget cuts?
So COVID-19 has significantly impacted, and moving forward without federal help will devastate the budgets of every state and every local government. No one is unharmed, and this virus has done that nationwide. So all 50 governors, led by Larry Hogan, a Republican governor of Maryland, are pushing, and we hope successfully. We've seen some good movement this week for the type of stimulus we saw in the Great Recession that is absolutely necessary to help our states. I'm also supportive of an infrastructure bill. At a time when we need to put people to work, let's make sure that we are repairing the roads, the bridges, the courthouses, anything else to make sure that we get some real gains out of the investments that we make during this time. But until we know what's coming from the federal government, or if anything's coming, the updated, so the consensus forecasting group, for those at home, is the group that sets the amounts that we have to base our budget on. And so when they set a new amount, like they have, significantly lowering it, we have to take steps for our budget. This one is our current fiscal year budget that ends on June 30th. And so what we have is a shortfall that they say that we're going to have, so we got to adjust to it, of $457.6 million in the general fund, which is a 4% reduction. So under law, because that is under 5%, and what we do in the executive branch and ask other branches is to enact our budget shortfall provisions, and that's going to require some significant cuts without federal aid. The transportation cabinet budget is a little different. Because of its amount, it is over the statutory amount, and so we'll have to be talking to our legislative leaders about a short, targeted special session that's mainly about adjusting the overall number in that budget. With only a couple months left, there's not much else you could do inside of it. We've had initial conversations with leadership. We'll want to talk to them again, make sure we have it all hammered out, make sure we do it in as short of a time as possible. And then we got to look at the next year that we've budgeted for. We're not going to have that revenue forecast back yet, and it would be really premature to do it because I do believe our economy is going to bounce back, though it's going to take a little time to bounce back in the way that we want it to, depending on what happens with this virus. So expectation of budget cuts for the general fund, expectation of very short special session for the road fund. Multiple outlets have asked my thoughts on President Trump's declaration today on houses of worship. Ours are already open. We got guidance out. That was a big team effort by our faith leaders. What I have seen, and we saw the slide tonight, is our faith leaders want to do this safely, and that in Kentucky we've got the type of guidance where it can be done safely. Phil?
This question actually is coming from Dave Baker, and it's a little bit lengthy, but it's about how the SEC has basically allowed student athletes to come back on campus on June the 8th, and I think the University of Louisville has stated they're going to maybe come back a little bit sooner. But are you in any conversations with university presidents to be part of that, and also too how that may result in college football starting back on time coming up this fall?
So the SEC today put out some guidance on students being able to come back to facilities, mainly for, as I read it, for individual workouts, non-team or scrimmage activities, and non-contact activities right now. If you look at our youth sports, and we developed this separately, they're very similar in the way that we're looking at it. While the SEC, to my knowledge, didn't contact and talk to us about it, we're obviously listening to the same health professionals in how we're going about it. So there'll have to be additional steps, if you asked about college football, to work up to it. One of the challenges is the sport has so much contact, and they're student athletes too, which is a little bit different than professionals and what they may choose or not choose to do. But this is the right step. It's about gradually working up, about getting people to where they're in a program, but not making that next step until you know it's safe and being able to evaluate where it's going. What we're seeing is a lot of sports considering ways that they can get back with significant testing and other measures, but probably without fans, other than Ohio State's plan, which I haven't fully seen, but is kind of the only one I've seen out there with fans. So we'll follow that, but it seemed very reasonable. Again, individual workouts, you'll see in our youth sports plan, we say for high contact sports, you can do that. You can do groups of 10 if they're not going to have the contact, but the sports that can be played in Kentucky by our youth, the earliest are going to be those lowest contact sports, baseball, tennis, and others, with some real thought on how we do it. What is my chief concern heading into Memorial Day weekend? My chief concern is that we're so excited to see each other, we forget all the rules, we run up and we give somebody a big hug or a handshake because that's the way we would otherwise do it. Man, I'd love to be there. And at some point, we will be there. But this weekend, we need to make sure that we follow the guidelines, that we just remember that this is still out there, and our actions can impact our ability to reopen our businesses or get our kids back to school. Those are the two things in many ways that keep me going. But there's lots of things that I think about on the day, but really having goals. I want to make sure our economy doesn't have to pause again as it's restarting, and I want to make sure kids get back to school. And that's kind of the risk reward scenario, the lens that I view every decision we're making. Other Joe.
For the primary election, the instructions on the absentee ballot say in all caps, bolded, hand delivery will not be accepted. I think you had said earlier that Secretary Adams did that you can drop them off at a drop box at a county clerk's. So I don't know if he left already. Oh, he's still there. If they could clarify,
one of the two of them.
Clarify if people are allowed to do that. just repeat the question? So on the absentee ballots.
Yes.
It says in all caps, bold, hand delivery will not be accepted on the instructions. Can you explain so people can or
Certainly.
can't do that?
Certainly. So it's important to understand that the governor signed an executive order calling for a change in the, or calling for an emergency in the election. Secretary of State called for a change in the manner of the election, and the State Board of Election then put forward emergency admin regulations. Those admin regulations now change the rules that allow voters to cast their ballot in these ways. So one of them is that instead of ballots having to mail that ballot back, they can now hand deliver that to a secure drop box at a location that's different in each county. But if they contact their county clerk, they'll be able to locate that location.
All right, Karen.
I know this has been discussed a little bit. Are you considering, or has there been any movement on, if someone gets a call from a contact tracer and they're told you have to self-quarantine for 14 days and they don't have time off from work, will they be able to apply for unemployment in that instance?
That's a good question. It's about people when they are contacted by a contact tracer and asked to stay home, if they'll qualify for unemployment. The first thing that we would do, if that issue arose and federal law didn't provide for it, is we contact their employer, because their employer should not want them coming back in sick. And that's why paid leave, especially if you have been called by a contact tracer, if you are likely to have it, should be there for everyone. And my hope is that every business, especially with that call, which is a little different maybe than somebody saying they feel sick and not having that diagnosis, but every business ought to realize that at that point it's dangerous for that person to come in and ought to be there for that individual. All right, Joe, lightning round.
When are we going to see more details about potential budget cuts for the remaining fiscal year? And kind of in line with that, when should we expect to see details about this possible special session that might be needed for the road?
So question is on budget cuts and on special session, when we'll see details. So we asked for initial draft plans, not knowing how large it would be. Now that we have a specific number on it, we'll get in from the cabinets on our side and potentially the constitutional officers, though they've got to agree to that. They're separate constitutional officers. I remember arguing that. Their plans, and then there's an approval for us or an agreement or an acceptance from others. And then we look at, again, we evaluate the amount of harm that would occur to people out there, because almost every budget cut does result in a little more difficulty or challenge for folks, and want to make sure we can minimize that. Special session will mainly be about dates. It should be a pretty small change that needs to be made. Without additional dollars, there's not a lot of flexibility in the rest of what we do. But I want to talk to the legislative leaders before I get out in front of that. It's going to be important to have their buy-in and their leadership in getting us to the right place there. Phil?
I've heard some people say that with the 50 people or less gatherings, I think on June 29th, and the bars as well, could there be a plan for swimming pools to open around that same time and very strict guidelines?
It's my favorite question, swimming pools. And could, when we hit 50 or less, could there be an opportunity there? I think when we are moving up to there, we can look at community type smaller pools where there is the ability to limit folks to 50 and to enforce the social distancing. That's the really important piece there. The biggest challenge with kids in a pool or kids anywhere, right, is to enforce that social distancing piece. But I think as we move towards 50, that's something that we can look at, especially depending on where the virus is. Joe.
I have a question about the testing, the overall testing numbers.
Yes.
There are tests for viral tests to see if someone has the coronavirus, and antibody tests to see if you might have had it sometime in the past. The numbers that you read every day, are those just the viral tests? Are those including both? And
So,
if they're including both, what's the percentage difference?
I'm not sure I have a percentage difference. Sure, I'll invite Dr. Stack up. I know that when the serology comes back with a positive, it's treated as a presumptive positive in ours, but I'll let him respond to that.
Thanks, Governor. And I've been trying to answer, Joe, by email with our PIOs your questions through the day, but so it's complicated. A PCR test, the one where we swab your nose, if you are positive, it means you have had the virus and you actually have viral particles. So we know that for sure. So a PCR test is a confirmed positive, a test or a lab confirmed positive. But an antibody test can have a false positive result more commonly, and when the disease is less common in the community, that false positivity becomes important. So we call those probable or presumptive positive. So on our website, you'll see 160 or so that say probable. The serology results are in the probable. And because the antibody tests have additional complication, there's other guidelines they follow. So you have to also have had a contact with someone who was positive themselves, or you have to have had symptoms. So there has to be more than one variable in order for us to consider you even a probable positive based on serology. And that's just the complexity of interpreting the test. So all the IgM or IgG positive people who also have contact with someone who is positive or who have symptoms show up in that category that says probable on our website, right on the top of the page.
But do those negative tests also count?
No, the negatives don't count, because if you're negative for serology, it just means you don't have antibodies. But if you were positive, I could be swabbed right now and have a positive PCR test and have no antibodies. So a negative doesn't mean you don't have infection. It just means you haven't recovered from infection and generated antibodies.
But that isn't counted in the 170,000 that we tested?
No, not currently.
All right, Karen, you get the last one before the Memorial Day weekend. It's a lot of pressure.
Some people who've been concerned over voter fraud are already asking the signature comparisons, what will they be compared to? And is that being run through the computer program to verify the signature?
We'll let the Secretary of State respond to that here in just a second. They're going to answer questions after this. If you all have any extra while I get out of here, and like many, enjoy this weekend. But I know they're going to use their usual processes. This isn't new for them. And do we have a... Okay, so we do? Yeah. Okay. We've got a video to take you out this weekend, and then for the press that stays and anyone that wants to stay on, I know the Secretary of State and Mr. Deering, Director Deering, are here to answer other questions if you have them. It's a big weekend, and it's been a big week. It's been a lot of openings, and it's really exciting, and it's what we've got to do to move forward. But I need everybody to be responsible. Our ability to stay open, our real success in the long term, as compared to other states and anywhere else, is going to depend on our ability to be healthy at work. So let's do the right things. Let's continue to be really great citizens. Let's fill out our census. Let's request our absentee ballots, and have a really have a happy, healthy Memorial Day weekend. And let's remember the sacrifice of those that our Memorial Day weekend is all about. So.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Lord. And I know things in your family have been different the past few months, and now some people are going back to work. This might make you feel a little worried or scared after having everybody at home. But I want you to know there's some things you can do that'll help you feel better.
You stay healthy at home, stay healthy at work.
That means I'll be washing my hands, wearing my mask, and staying 6 feet away from others so I can be healthy at work.
Talk about your parents with the grown-ups inside your house.
I'm always here to answer your questions or to talk about your worries. Si creo que estás preocupada, te voy a preguntar de eso para ver si estás bien.
Mwah.
Get on a regular schedule every day. That means regular bedtime, mealtime, and time for exercise. You can use a visual calendar like the one Micah is. And don't forget to put in the fun stuff like arts, crafts, play, and snacks.
Arts, crafts, play, and snacks.
Spend time with other people in person or even over the phone, like your brothers and sisters, your cousins, your grandparents, your friends. Don't even forget about those special pets, or even your stuffed animals and your favorite toys. Or you could be like Dax with his favorite blankie.
Even babies can cope by cuddling, singing or humming, and holding a stuffed animal or a blanket. If you're older, you can try staying busy with playing a game or arts and crafts, exercising or dancing, or just reminding yourself that while you're being healthy at home, your parents are healthy at work.
So thanks to all our families for reminding us there are a lot of ways we can help ourselves if we get worried. So let's remember the 5 C's. You are in control of being healthy at home and healthy at work. Communicate or talk about your feelings. Stick to a consistent schedule. Connect with people, pets, and toys, and use your coping strategies like belly breathing.